The three hills of King's Landing are in truth the heart of the city. Everything that King's Landing is today is because of the hills. When Aegon landed on the shores of the Blackwater Rush, he did not do so randomly. He would have taken time and consideration as to where to begin his conquest, with the first vital steps of building a defendable foothold on the mainland of Westeros, somewhere that was in a key location but was also defendable from the onset. This is exactly what the three hills beside the Blackwater offered Aegon. It seemed he was not the first to think so, as atop the hills that would become known as Visenya's Hill and Rhaenys' Hill existed several ruins of ancient stone keeps and watchtowers that in days gone by had been used by one petty king or another to defend his realm. But who these kings were had been lost to time. Thus, when Aegon came ashore, all he found was a small fishing village by the banks of the Blackwater Rush. Given all the area offered, the thick woodland, the freshwater river, the defendable hills, some have questioned why no large city or town had been built on the site, given on paper it was the perfect location. There are three key things to consider no amount of defendable hill can remedy. The area that would become known as the Crownlands had been politically unstable for generations, with borders shifting as fast as the flow of the Blackwater itself. You also need to consider the large town of Duskendale is located very close to the site of King's Landing, and thus these hills. Economically, it made little sense to build a new town when an established port town like Duskendale already existed. King's Landing is a Targaryen city, and without them, it would still be three empty hills. Over time, these hills would evolve, and each play a key role in the history of King's Landing. The Red Keep has its secrets, known only to the dead. The writings of Gildane, Fire and Blood, the Sons of the Dragon. It's not certain how the three hills got their names. There is some suggestion they came from the small folk, others that it was ordained by Aegon the Conqueror himself. The tallest of the three hills is paradoxically the most important, but also the least interesting in its history. Named after Aegon the Conqueror, Aegon's High Hill is located where the Blackwater Rush empties into the bay, and is the site where Aegon decided to build his foothold in Westeros, with the construction of a log and earth keep, known as the Aegon Fort, which in turn would make way for the Red Keep decades later. Aegon's Hill made the most sense for this fort, given it was protected by the waters of the bay and the rush on two sides, and the steep slopes of the hill on the others. Out of all three hills, it was the most defendable, and provided access still to the rush and bay should the need for escape arise. The Red Keep now takes up the entirety of the hill's peak, with its tall walls and towers, making the already huge hill seem even larger. No matter where you go in the city below, you cannot escape the looming heights of Aegon's Hill. But the hill itself is much more than just the Red Keep. As we know well, when Maegor the Cruel took over the construction of the Red Keep after the death of his brother King Rhaenys, he greatly expanded the project. Part of his new plan was the inclusion of an endless maze of tunnels built beneath the castle, crisscrossing like a rabbit warren, a system so complex a normal man would get lost forever within the dark chambers. These tunnels would allow quick and secret access to many areas of the Red Keep, and provide some form of escape in the event that the keep fell to an attacker. The Dragonpit atop the Hill of Rhaenys had been abandoned for a century and a half. He supposed it was a good place as any to store wildfire, and better than most, but it would have been nice if the late Lord Rosard had told someone. The Thoughts of Tyrion Lannister, A Clash of Kings, Chapter 49, Tyrion 11. While the history of Aegon's Hill is interesting, given the nature of the Red Keep, it has remained very static in its use, and thus its history remains consistent. The same cannot be said for the other two huge hills that make up King's Landing. The history is far more complex. The Hill of Rhaenys is located towards the northeast of the city, with the huge slum of Fleabottom in its shadow. The Hill of Rhaenys has had several uses over the centuries, with each of them often ending in fire and death. It was seen during the early development of King's Landing. Nothing of note was done to the hill, with the slopes most likely being inhabited by the hovels of the small folk. But after the death of Queen Rhaenys in 10 BC, the site on top of the hill would be used to build a grand sept, the Sept of Remembrance, which was constructed during the reign of King Aegon I. While we cannot say for certain when exactly construction finished, it was at least done by the time King Rhaenys I came to the throne. The Sept would be used for most of the religious matters of the city, including marriages, funeral rites, and other celebrations. During the Faith Militant Uprising of 42 AC that resulted in the untimely death of King Rhaenys Targaryen, the militants used the Sept as their command centre. The new king, Rhaenys' brother Maegor, would burn the Sept and the Faith Militant within to the ground. Soon after, Maegor had the ruins of the Sept cleared and ordered the construction of the Colossus Dragonpit, the domed stable for dragons. The Dragonpit would see much use for public events, such as the Golden Wedding in 49 AC. Ultimately, the Dragonpit would be destroyed during the later stages of the Dance of the Dragons during the Moon of Madness, with the domed roof collapsing in and killing countless within. The pit would remain a ruin ever since, its looming presence in the skyline of King's Landing, a lost symbol of Targaryen dominance. High on Visenya's hill, sunlight blazed off the 7 crystal towers of the great Sept of Baelor. The Thoughts of Davos Seaworth, A Clash of Kings, Chapter 58, Davos 3. Visenya's hill is located towards the west of the city, with the Street of Steel in its shadow. The first recorded use of the hill came in the years of rapid growth King's Landing saw in the wake of the conquest. There had been many small shabby septs built around the banks of the Blackwater Rush, but none would serve as a true place of worship in Aegon's new capital city. Thus, prior to the construction of the Red Keep, the High Septon of the Faith sponsored the building of a grand sept on top of the hill. King Rhaenys I Targaryen would live in a manse atop the hill near the sept, while the Red Keep was under construction, but then relocated to Dragonstone amidst the tensions with the Faith Militant, making the city unsafe. During the Faith Militant Uprising, King Maegor I Targaryen raised the Red Dragon of House Targaryen atop Visenya's hill to rally his supporters before crushing the uprising and securing his throne. Later during the Dance of the Dragons, late into the war as the mood of madness rose, the child, Gaemon Powhair, rumoured bastard of King Aegon II, was briefly proclaimed a king and made his seat at the Hill's House of Kisses, a well-known brothel. Later, the wedding of King Aegon III and Jaehaera Targaryen would be held atop Visenya's hill, after the Dance of the Dragons had ended, with towering grandstands built for noble guests, given that the Dragon Pit was still not usable for any kind of function. During the Regency, a branch of the Roger Bank was opened on Visenya's hill during the Lycian spring, with it likely closing after the fall of House Roger. The construction of the now Great Sept of Baelor began during the reign of King Baelor I Targaryen, sometime around the year 161 to 171 AC, with the huge ornate sept a fundamental part of King's Landing's skyline into the main book series.